Alright guys, in this video what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be completing the IXL ISND guys last Wednesday, Q6 in particular, because this is the one that I was getting a lot of questions about that you guys needed help on. What I need you guys to have out is the transformations guide that we completed together in class, and then you'll see how I'm just going to apply all those properties on there to the various problems we'll have here. Okay, so you guys can see it is Q6. Okay, and I'm going to reach all the way to 90. You'll see just how uncomplicated it is when you use your transformation guide. So the question says, what kind of transformation converts the graph of f of x from, and you have this quadratic right here, right, to this one right here. So you just want to compare the functions and see what changed. You'll notice that the first one has a -8 outside, right, the quadratic. And then now this one, it's missing. So what would you have to do to this original function to get the second one here? Well, you're going to have to add 8, right? Because the -8 goes away. So -8 plus 8, then you're going to cancel that out. So if you add 8 to the outside, you're going to translate the function 8 units up, right? So if you remember, if you add outside or subtract outside, you're moving up or down. So from -8 to making it go away, you're going to have to add 8, which means you're going to have to translate it 8 units up. Okay? Next one. Again, observe the functions. You have that one, and this one right here. Whoops, and this one right here. So then the -9 becomes a -2. So then what did you have to do to the -9 to make it a -2? You had to add 7, right? -9 plus 7 is -2. So then you added 7 on the outside, so that's going to be 7 units up. Okay, next one. So I have the outside, the 4 stays the same, right? But inside, right here, I have x, absolute value of x minus 3, but originally I had the absolute value of x minus 5. So I had to add 2, right? -5 plus 2 is -3. So I had to add 2 on the inside, right? When you add 2 units on the inside, remember when you add on the inside, you're moving towards the left. So this one will be 2 units left. Okay? Next one. Similarly, right, the -2 outside stayed the same, but x plus 2 became x plus 7. So I had to add 5 on the inside. So adding 5 on the inside is moving towards the left. So 5 units to the left. Okay? Now, let me see. I have the negative outside, that stays. The 7 outside, that stayed. But the x plus 5 on the inside changed to x minus 5. So what do I have to do to the 5 to get it to a -5? I'm going to have to subtract 10, right? Positive 5 minus 10, you get -5. So if you subtract on the inside, you're moving towards the right. So 10 units to the right. Okay? Next one. Looks like now 2 values changed, right? The -5 became a -4. So that means you add 1 on the outside. So if you add 1 on the outside, you're moving up 1 unit. So if you notice, if I'm going to eliminate some answers, I can eliminate the first one and the last one, right? Because only these have 1 unit up. So definitely one of these. Now on the inside, I went from -4 to +3. That means I have to add 7 to -4 to get a +3. So if you add 7 on the inside, adding, you're going to be moving to the left. So 7 units left, 1 unit up. Okay? Next one. So then now, notice that this one might be a bit confusing to see it, right? Because you have the quadratic right there. And then now, the parentheses just went away. That means that -9 inside basically became 0. So what do you have to add to this guy to make it 0? Well, you're going to have to add 9, right? And that's on the inside. 9 on the inside, on the quadratic. So then that means if you're adding 9, you're going to have to move 9 units to the left, right? So if you look at your possible answers, you know it's definitely going to be the first one or the third one, okay? Now you have -1, -1 here, and then +8 here. So that means you have to add 9 on the outside. So that's going to be 9 units up. So 9 units to the left and 9 units up. That's going to be the first one. Okay? Alright, next I have negative 10 on the inside and a negative 1 on the inside. So I'm going to have to add 9 on the inside, so 9 units left. And actually, I can already stop there because only this answer says 9 units left. You guys see that? But just to further show you 4 units down, a negative 4 becomes a negative 8. So you're going to have to subtract 4 on the outside, and that's going to make it negative 8. Okay? Next, on the inside here, the negative 5 became a negative 8. So that means you have to subtract 3. Negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8. Okay, so then you're going to be moving, if you subtract, you move 3 units to the right. So once again, I can actually stop after that, right, because only this one has 3 units to the right. But either way, right, negative 6 becoming a positive 4, you're going to have to add, what, 8? No, 10, right? So 10 units up. And that's your answer. Okay, now I have x minus 1 squared. This one becomes x plus 2 squared, so the negative 1 becomes a positive 2. So I'm going to have to add 3, right, on the inside. So if I add 3 on the inside, that's 3 units left. So it's the second or third answer so far. Then I have a positive 6, that becomes a positive 2. So I'm subtracting 4 on the outside, so down 4. So 3 units left, 4 units down. Okay. All right. Now looks like we're going into the the linear functions. So it says what kind of transformation converts, and we have 5x minus 8, and then I have negative 5x plus 8. So notice that the first function had a positive 5x, now it's negative, and the negative 8 became a positive 8. That means you have to multiply the entire function by a negative, because if you multiply the entire function by a negative, this one becomes negative, this one will become negative times negative becomes positive. So when you have the negative, in other words, in the front, that means multiplying the entire function by a negative. So look at your transformations guide. If you have a negative in the front, that means you multiply everything by a negative, right? A negative in the front was a reflection across the x-axis. Okay? Now this one, negative 6x becomes a positive 6x. Negative 9, though, stayed as a negative 9. That means only this first one changed. That means this x is the one that became negative. Because if you make this x negative, you get negative 6 times negative x. That's going to make it positive 6x. So that means the negative is inside. It's not the whole function. Because again, the negative 9 stayed negative. So if the negative is inside, look at your transformation guide. That means that's a reflection across the y-axis. Okay? Next one. You'll notice that the negative 2 became a negative 6. Okay? So that means you multiplied this guy by 3. And then also the positive 9 stayed as a positive 9. So that means only the first value here got multiplied by a number, right? So that means you multiplied inside, not outside, because if you have a number out here, that means both of them would change, right? Multiply the entire function by some value. So if you multiplied by 3 on the inside, right, look at your transformations guide. Which one multiplies a number inside, right? And then you have to observe, is that greater than 1 or less than 1? We already said that was by 3. So multiplied by 3 on the inside would be a horizontal shrink. Okay? So this one, I have 2x minus 1 and negative 2x minus 1. So again, only the first term changed. The second one stayed the same. So that means the negative is on the inside. That's a reflection across the y-axis. Okay. Next, negative 7x becomes positive. The negative 2 became positive 2. So that means both of them changed. So the whole function was multiplied by a negative. That's a reflection across the x-axis. The negative is outside. Okay. Now this one, once again, the negative 2x became a negative 6x, and then the 5 stayed the same. So that means that value you multiplied was inside right here, right? And you multiplied by a 3. So that's a horizontal shrink. Okay, almost done here, maybe like 3 more problems. So then next I have negative 8x and 8x, so that becomes positive, but the negative 8 stayed negative. That means that negative then is right here inside, right, to make this one positive. So then that's going to be a reflection across the y-axis. Okay? Next, the 8x became negative 8x, but the negative 6 stayed the same. So then that means this guy, again, the negative was inside, so a reflection across the y-axis. And then finally, okay, so I have negative 2x becomes a negative 10x, so I had to multiply by 5. But then the 2 also became a 10, so that means I multiplied this by 5 also. So that means the entire function was multiplied by 5 f of x. Look at your transformations guide, the value is outside, and it's greater than 1. That's a vertical stretch. Okay, and there you go. That would complete this IXL.